Hi, everyone. Welcome. Our next session, Ben and Alyssa will be talking to you about growing your app organically with sharing and app invites. Alyssa?
Hi, my name is Alyssa Levitz, as Jillian said, and I'm a product manager on the platform team here at Facebook. I'm presenting today with Ben Padgett, who's a Facebook engineer, and we're here because we want to help you leverage Facebook's suite of sharing tools to help people express themselves and connect with others while growing your app's audience and engagement levels. Building relationships through sharing our experiences is a core part of being human, and there are so many digital tools to facilitate this. But with limited time and resources, you need to choose the ones that are going to reach the audience you care about. In 2014, people shared more than 50 billion pieces of app content to Facebook. Whether you're a content provider or helping people create their own content, all of these posts got to Facebook through the process of sharing. This process can be broken down into 3 parts. First, someone needs to be inspired to share. Then they're going to choose what audience to share it with and tailor their message accordingly. And finally, they're going to deliver the message through a sharing flow that you build. We'll go through each of these steps in turn and talk about how you, as developers, can help people at each stage. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my dog. This is my dog, Hudson. He is one of the most important parts of my life, and whether he's running at the park or just sitting, I can't get enough of how cute he is, and I want everyone else to see him too, as evidenced here. So I attach photos of him to my Swarm check-ins, I reshare the posts when they come up on Time Hop, and I edit the photos with BarkCam and post them to Tumblr, all of which then ends up on Facebook. Now, I know there are tons of animal photos on the internet already, but what makes these special is that they come from me. These apps and their connection with Facebook give me the opportunity to show others who I really am, which is a kind of crazy dog person. You might say that Hudson is my inspiration for sharing, but let's talk about this a little more broadly. In this example from Mashable, you see them calling out a particular quotation within the article. The reasons why you'd share an article are the same types of reasons, the reasons why someone might call out a quotation like this are the same types of reasons why someone might share the article. It's interesting, it's memorable, or it sums up the point of the article succinctly. So, smartly, they provide the opportunity to share right there. This highlights a way for you to think about how to create content that's going to grow your apps. Create it based on what we know motivates people to share. Our research tells us that people share for 3 fundamental reasons, and the first is to express themselves. They want to reinforce the identity that they present to those around them. This is frequently a carefully crafted and well-thought-out persona, usually with a particular audience in mind. And they want to make sure they're putting their best foot forward. This identity may include getting the word out about various causes they care about and brands they like. In general, people are defining themselves with what they share. People also share because they're trying to grow and nourish their relationships. People want to connect with those around them. Sharing creates opportunities for interaction that can strengthen existing relationships and even create new ones as well. And finally, people share because they're trying to help others. It's important to people that the folks seeing their post get some value out of them, whether it's entertainment, inspiration, or just information. People like feeling valuable, and they like getting credit for it too. And so when people are sharing with the right audience, they're going to get posts and responses and likes that just make them feel good. So with Mashable as a guide, ask yourself what the moments are in your app or site that are going to make people stop and think, and then provide the opportunities to share right there. But first, before people can share, you as developers need to get that content ready for them. Yesterday, we launched a new major version, version 4, of our SDKs for iOS and Android. We're excited about this, and today we're also saying that as part of these SDKs, we are bringing iOS to parity with Android when it comes to sharing videos natively, the way you would for photos. We've also just generally made it easier for you to share content from your apps to Facebook. Now, different types of content, links, photos, videos, and even open graph stories, each have a single representation in code. So let's take a look at sharing a link in iOS. First, you use the share link content class, and then you define your content object and its various properties. And this is the way a link will be structured no matter what sharing endpoint you choose to use. Not only have we standardized content objects within a class, we've also made them consistent across content types. So here's a photo share for comparison. But unless you're actually helping people create their own content, most of the content can still be represented by a link. Marking up your pages with Open Graph meta tags is the way you control the way your content appears once it gets to Facebook, no matter how it got there. This markup also controls the way your story is previewed if you're using our sharing dialogues. And this is really important. Our research tells us that people will cancel their share if the preview is not a good match for the story. And so marking up your content with Open Graph tags is a really good way to prevent people from dropping out of the sharing flow. And the next step in the sharing flow is to choose the audience you're going to share it with. It's important to understand who people are likely to want to share with in a particular situation and give them that option. Otherwise, they're likely to just not share at all. So let's talk through the options. Our research tells us that people want to share with small groups. As Facebook friend lists have grown to include acquaintances, coworkers, and extended family members, people don't want to share all of their stuff to this disparate collection of people. There are, of course, still types of content that make sense to post to your timeline, but there are other things that just don't make as much sense in this context and aren't being shared as much as they could be today, like purchases you want to make, a craft project you're working on, or just an article that reminds you of some inside joke. Sharing to small groups is a new opportunity space for many of you that will deepen people's connection with your app. Buying a house is an example of a deeply personal decision that really calls for small group sharing. Redfin is a real estate app. Here, you see them providing quite a few sharing options, but most of them aren't about wide distribution. They're about facilitating a conversation with the few people whose opinion you actually care about when making what will likely be the largest purchase of your life. But you should still be thinking about all of the possible audiences for your app. So we've been talking about real-time private communication with one or just a few people, but there are also other forms of directed sharing that people want to do. There are so many conversations that happen in groups formed around a particular topic or interest area. And finally, there's the more traditional way we've thought about sharing, which is on your timeline, either publicly or to your friends. For each of these audiences, the Facebook sharing platform and all of the people on it give you a great opportunity. So finally, let's talk about delivering your message. How does someone get their piece of content from your app to Facebook? Regardless of what audience you think is appropriate for your app scenario, we want to make it easy for you. So we're providing a range of options, from plug-and-play buttons to building entirely your own experience. Most of the sharing flows you'll build will go through one of our sharing dialogues. Here, you see an example of sharing a photo to Facebook and Messenger on iOS and Android. It's a clean and consistent experience that returns people to your app when they're done. One of the most common ways of enabling sharing on Facebook is by launching those dialogues with a button that you build. This is great for maintaining brand consistency or just a color scheme within your app, but when you still don't want to deal with having to build the full sharing experience yourself. Now, with SDK version 4, you'll have a new option. We've had native like, send, and share buttons on the web for quite some time as part of our JavaScript SDKs. And last fall, we launched a native like button as part of the SDKs for iOS and Android. Yesterday, with version 4, we launched new native share and send buttons so you can get your social experience up and running easily. To hear more about these buttons and social plugins more generally, go back and watch the talk from yesterday by Stoyan Stefanov and Varun Bhartia on driving growth experiences. So these buttons are available today with a download of our SDKs. But let's go back to the future for a moment. Yesterday, Mark showed a new sharing experience that addresses many of the concerns we've heard from people and developers. Primarily, that people don't want to be surprised by how their content is shared to Facebook, and they want to be able to share to small groups. So let's go back to that video and break it down step by step. So my friend Todd went on a run that he's really proud of, so obviously he's going to share it to Facebook. And this is the new share sheet. We're looking at it on iOS, but you can imagine a comparable experience on Android. It's integrated at the OS level, which makes it easy for you to implement. It keeps your app at the top of the memory stack and keeps people in the context of your app. And as a bonus for everyone, it has the ability to share to all of the audiences we've talked about earlier, your profile, groups, and Messenger. So let's share to a group. One of the consistent pieces of feedback we've heard from people is that they want to know what their content is going to look like once it gets to Facebook. And the share sheet provides that, while making it clear where you're posting and who will be able to see it. Being able to write your own message is an important part of any post, particularly when it's coming from an app that might require a little bit more context. And maybe that context you want to add is tagging your running buddy, or maybe just saying you're feeling awesome, or adding a location. The share sheet has functionality comparable to the Composer in the native Facebook apps, but without the weight of being switched over to the app itself. When used widely, it will provide people with a consistent experience across apps without each of you having to build all of these features yourself. This share sheet will make it easy for you. This share sheet is easy for you to implement and gives you the opportunity to have your content shared to both Facebook and Messenger with a single implementation. It keeps your app in focus while providing people with all of the features that they need to have a consistent and good sharing experience. But when it comes to sharing content today, let's talk a little bit about the new things we've introduced in the new version of the SDK. I talked a little bit earlier about how we've standardized the content model so that it's consistent across content types and across sharing methods as well. We've also made it so that you don't have to worry about whether the person has the Facebook app installed. We'll automatically check that for you and return those people to the web if needed. In order to truly appreciate the changes we've made for SDK v4, let's take a look back at what was required to share a link on iOS in version 3. So first, you had to define your content's parameters. Then, you needed to check to see whether the Facebook app was installed so you'd know what experience you were sending your users to. But then, in case they couldn't use the native share dialog, you had to redefine your content with different parameters than before and call the web dialog separately. That's a lot of steps. So let's take a look at how we've made it easier in version 4. We have two much shorter blocks of code, one of which you've already seen that defines your link content. The other one refers to that content in order to show the dialog. When you call this dialog, it will automatically check for you whether the person has the Facebook app installed and send them to the web if they don't. But let's say you wanted to use our full experience, starting with the button, instead of just calling our dialog. You define your content exactly the same way as before, but just call the button class instead. And finally, I hope you're noticing a pattern here. If you want to build entirely your own experience, you define your content exactly the same way as before and call the API. This is our most advanced scenario for sharing, and it requires implementing Facebook login, requesting permission to publish on behalf of someone, and of course, using our Graph API. Here is a great example of custom UI from Pixlr by Autodesk. They only share to Facebook when someone has intentionally done so. They provide a preview of the post so you know what you're about to share and provide the opportunity to write a message as well. And finally, they tell you that the post has gone through successfully. I want to leave you today with an inspiring post from one of my friends and colleagues, Tanya. She frequently posts her runs to Runkeeper, from Runkeeper to Facebook. This one is of a gorgeous sunset along with all of her running data, and it's engaging and it's personal. As a quick aside, she, along with my colleague Joyce Lee, are going to be giving a talk on onboarding experiences in this room right after the break, so if you're interested, you should stick around. But anyway, let's say that Tanya notices that I like most of her posts from Runkeeper and decides that I might want to use the app too. How should she tell me about it? Recommending an app to a friend is a special case of sharing that's just different from other types of content, which is why yesterday we launched the new App Invites product, which Ben will talk about more fully right now.
Thanks. Hi, guys. I'm Ben Paget. I'm an engineer at Facebook on the Platform Experience team, and I'm here to tell you about our new App Invites product. Word of mouth is the primary driver of organic installs on mobile. App Invites is a new way for people to share their favorite apps with their friends. A recent study by an app analytics company found that 83% of mobile apps were not visible in the iOS App Store and were only reachable by direct search. So if you're in that 83%, you're going to need some help getting your app noticed. And if you're not in that 83% and are featured in a top list somewhere, good for you. But you could probably still use a few extra installs. We want people to be able to share any app that they enjoy with their friends. That's why App Invites extends high-quality, word-of-mouth invitation capabilities to all mobile apps. We've learned a lot building and testing this product, including the fact that invites work better when they seem personal and relevant. A good invite gets higher click-through rates because people feel better about receiving it. What we've ended up with is a completely new, high-quality organic install channel. People can now share your app in a personal, relevant, and direct way. These invites don't end up on someone's timeline or in their newsfeed. They will show up in a completely new area that we've built just for this product. I'm going to start off by showing a quick video that will show the whole end-to-end flow of App Invites. So we start off in Instagram. We navigate to the profile page, and we see a new Invite Facebook Friends button. We push it, we'll fast app switch over to the Facebook app and see a preview of the invite. Notice we have a big custom image in there, and we're entering a custom message. All right, good message, James. So we hit the next button, and we'll see a list of our friends. Notice there's a recommended friends section at the top there. I'll tell you more about this in a second. So we select a friend, we send the invite, and away it goes. So now let's take a look at the receiver side and see what happens when you get one of these. The first thing that happens is you get a push notification. Notice that we have the custom sender message in there. So we swipe it, and we're taken to the new area where all of the invites are shown. Notice we see that custom image and the message again. So we hit the install button on that, and we're taken to the in-process App Store page for your app. Looks good. Let's hit install. All right, so we'll detect when that's finished downloading and installing and give you a notification. The notification sits in Facebook telling you that your app is ready to use, and when you tap it, your app will be launched. There we go. We've generated an organic install. So now that we have an overview of the whole thing, let's go into a little more detail about each of the parts. We start the sender flow by showing a preview of the invite content. We find that people are more likely to send this invite out if they have an idea of what it's going to look like beforehand. The sender can add a personal message here that will be shown to all of the invite's recipients. Also notice that there's a big, beautiful image on the invite. This image is something that you, the developer, can customize on a per-invite basis. This opens up some really cool integration possibilities. If you have a photo sharing app, you can let people send off invites with a picture that they just took. Or if you're a shopping app, you can link people into the product page for something that you think they might be interested in. Or if you're a game, you can let people invite their friends with a screenshot of a boss fight that they just beat. Next, we'll show the sender a list of their friends. The friends that we think will be most likely to install your app are going to appear on the top in the recommended section. After you've invited a particular friend to an app, they won't show up in this section again for a while, and someone else will take their place. Since a person is less likely to respond to the second or third or 25th invite than the first, this improves the experience for the recipients, and it helps make sure that your invites are going to the people who are most likely to install. If the sender doesn't want to use our recommendations, they can scroll down and see a list of all of their friends. And we also have a type ahead in case they have a particular person in mind that they'd like to invite. So that's the end of the sender flow. Now let's take a look at what it looks like to receive one again. The first thing that happens is they'll get notified. We'll send a push notification and also put a notification in the Facebook app. Notice that we show the customized sender message on these. We found that invites with the custom sender message attached convert at more than double the rate of invites that don't have one. So they click the notification, and they're taken to the new invites area in the Facebook app. This new area acts like a feed of all the invites they've received recently. An important thing to note here is that invites are only visible to the person who got invited, not to any of their friends. These invites won't show up in Newsfeed or on someone's timeline. They'll only show up in this new area. The recipient will see the personalized sender message and that big custom image. If multiple people have invited someone to the same app, they'll see all of these invitations aggregated together in a horizontal scroll. They can still see all of those custom sender messages and all of the custom images that went out with each invite. This design has a few other important advantages. Since this acts as a feed of all the invites you've seen recently, users will be re-engaged with invites for other apps while they scroll around in here. And also, once a person has already installed an app, the invite will still hang around in this feed, reminding them to open the app and try it out. As we saw in the video, once the user clicks the install button, it will bring up the in-process App Store page for your app. And finally, when we detect that your app is finished downloading and installing, we'll send the recipient a notification telling them to try out the app. This notification will show up in the Facebook app, and when the user taps it, your app will be launched. One more thing to talk about. We've added controls that will allow recipients to block invites from people or from applications. This is a clear win for people using Facebook, and it's actually going to help you, the developers, too. I spoke before about how we want to keep this a high-quality channel with personalized invites. This is one of the ways we do that. Keeping this a high-quality channel means, in the long run, that you will all get more installs using this because the channel will be more effective. Blocking lets people make sure that invites are going to the people who are interested in getting them and puts people in control of their own Facebook experience. Much like our other shared dialogues, App Invites doesn't require login. That's because the sender experience takes place in the Facebook app. If someone doesn't have the Facebook app installed, we have web view fallbacks. Again, just like our other shared dialogues. The fact that login is optional, plus the fact that this doesn't really require very much code to integrate, means that App Invites truly is a turnkey solution for organic installs. By now, I hope I've convinced you to try this out. Let's take a quick look at how. Here's all the code you need to integrate App Invites on iOS and Android. I'll walk you through it line by line. We start off by making a content object. This will hold all of the parameters that will configure how the invite will work. So first, we'll set the app link that we're going to use for this invite. This is used to tell us what your app is and where to find it on the App Store. It's also going to be used to navigate into a specific part of your app after the recipient installs and launches it. I'll talk more about this later. Next, we can add a URL to an image to use with this invite. This parameter is optional. This is how you gain access to that custom image that I keep talking about. These images are the same ratio that you'd use for our mobile app install ads product. Notice that the image can be customized per invite. That opens up some fun integration possibilities, right? Photo sharing apps, I'm looking at you guys. If you don't specify an image here, we'll use a fallback from your Facebook app setup page. So now that we've specified all of our parameters, we call the code to actually present the invite dialog. And that's all there is to it. So in the last section, we used an app link URL. Let's talk a little bit more about that now. App links are an open standard for deep linking in mobile apps. If you were here for Eddie and Ming's talk, they went all over these things. But to reiterate, here's the main points that you need to know about them for app invites. First, they hold all of the data that we need to find your app on the iOS and Android app stores. Second, they hold the information that we need to launch your app after it's been installed. Third, you can use them to navigate into a specific part of your app when the recipient launches it. This is also known as deferred deep linking, and it's kind of a big deal. You can host app link data on your own website. It's as simple as putting a few metadata tags in the head section of your page's HTML code. If you don't want to do this, or don't have a website, Facebook will host app link data for you. To make this as easy as possible, we've built a tool for creating Facebook-hosted app links. This is launching alongside app invites, and it's really easy to use. Before this tool, you had to do a bunch of curling from the command line to set up Facebook-hosted app links. So that's not bad, but personally, I'd rather just fill out a web form. You can find a link to this tool in the documentation for app invites. So here's how app links actually look when they're used for app invites. You can see here that we have the App Store ID for iOS and the package name for Android. We also have a human-readable name for populating our dialogues. Finally, and most important, we have the URL that will be used to open your app on Android and iOS. Notice in this one, we have it set up to open Instagram's main feed. I've talked before about deep linking into your app. This is how you actually do it. Here's another neat trick you can do with app invites. Let's say you have two different images that you want to use with invites, and you'd like to see which one performs better. Classic A/B test, right? So if you look at the deep links on the top pane, you'll see that we've added a tracking parameter, and it's set to the control group. On the bottom, we have deep links for the test group. So just set up two different app link URLs, have them specify the tracking information, then use the control group URL on invites that use your control image, use the test group URL on images that use your test image. When your app launches, log which URL you got. I recommend Facebook app events for this, but I'm kind of biased. And if you see a lot more launches from the test image, you know that it's being more effective, and maybe you should use that exclusively. So now we've talked about what the product is and how to integrate it. But what does a good integration actually look like, and what can you expect from it? Well, we've spent a few weeks doing beta testing with partners, and we've come up with some best practices. The closer to the root of your navigation flow, the better. If you put this one button tap into your app, you'll get a lot more clicks than if it's 3 button taps in. We've seen a partner app that converts to an install on about 5% of Cinderflow opens. In other words, every 20 times someone hits this invite button, they generated an install. So that's pretty good, but it's still a funnel, so you need to make it easy for people to find their way into the top of it. Make it clear what will happen when people tap the button that opens the send flow. Invite friends has worked well here. Invite Facebook friends is even clearer. Things that haven't worked well here are just having an unlabeled button floating around somewhere in your UI. Good integrations will see around 30% of the people who start the send flow actually complete it and send off an invite. We've seen bad integrations suffer a lot here. That number can go quite a bit lower. So make sure you're letting people know what they're getting into. And use a custom image. If you can use a personal and relevant image along with the invite, that will really help your accept rates. If the design of your app doesn't allow this for some reason, at least try to use a nice looking image. And take advantage of deep linking. Anything that makes the invite more personal helps. Link to books in your reading app. Link to shared photos in your photo sharing app. Of course, the catch is you have to message this personalization to someone when they receive the invite. So use the custom image for this. That's what it's there for. That brings me to my next point. We don't want you to incentivize sending invites. Never do that. This is against our policy, and we've written the API to make that impossible anyway. It just lowers the quality of the channel. But you can incentivize accepts. When you do that, everybody wins. So use deep linking for this. Stick a coupon code on the end of your deep link URL, grab that on App Startup, and shower your new users with riches. Last of all, make sure that your App Store page is a good one. This probably goes without saying, especially in this crowd, but this is a potential leak in your install funnel. So good copy, nice screenshots. You guys all know the drill here. A good app will have double the install rate of a bad one at this point in the funnel. That means you could potentially lose out on half of your installs at the very last step. So who's been using this? Well, PixArt for one. So I'd like to welcome Art from PixArt, and he can tell you a little bit about their integration.
Hello, everybody. My name is Art Avast Merabian, and I'm co-founder and CEO of PixArt Photo Studio. PixArt Photo Studio is top mobile photo app and editor and drawing app with global community of artists creating and sharing pictures. With over 200 billion of installs, where main source of installs is literally word of mouth. Now we have opportunity to accelerate our organic growth by using Facebook Invite API. To get best out of it, we need to use it in right place and right time. In PixArt, we practice co-creation and co-editing with free-to-edit hashtag. And here is where we try to use it. When picture uploaded with free-to-edit hashtag, it pop-ups asking, invite your Facebook friend, and using custom image tag. And here is how it looks like. We did 2 different integrations, and one in iOS with basic integration without custom image flag, and in Android with custom image flag. And the one with custom image flag performs 4 times better.
Thanks, Art. So, 4 times the install rate from using a better flow with a custom image on it. So here's a look at some of the rest of our beta partners. There may be a couple companies on there that you're familiar with. So by now, I hope I've turned you all into a bunch of frothy-mouthed, rabid, near-future app invite implementers. You'll need to go and download version 4 of the Facebook SDK. That's the most recent one that we just announced yesterday. You can find documentation to app invites and a download link for the Facebook SDK on the slide behind me. Or just Google it if you don't want to take pictures of slides with your phone. So we'd like to take a few minutes to just answer any questions you might have about app invites or sharing in general. So Alyssa, if you'd come up on stage and help answer. And if you have any questions, just line up at the microphone.
I know it's hard to be the first person, but there's got to be something.
Just line up at the mic.
Hi. I want to know what happens if a friend already has the app. Does Facebook not put them in the recommended list? Do they not get a push notification? And how do you recommend we solve that if you want to incentivize the recipient? Because then you're incentivizing existing users otherwise.
Sure. So if someone already has the app installed, the invite will still show up in their invites feed, but will suppress push notifications and Facebook notifications. We do that so that the data is still transmitted, but we don't annoy them with notifications for an app they already have.
Hello.
Hi.
Are y'all going to support video instead of images?
For now, we don't have any plans to support anything except images, but we prioritize our future work based on requests from developers, so if enough people want that, yeah, we'll probably do it at some point.
Thank you.
Are there plans to include invites to Instagram followers?
So invites is a product for bringing new people into your app and basically getting them to install it. So because of that, there's no plans for invites to people who are already... Oh, sorry, did I misinterpret your question? Do you mean, can we invite to Instagram followers instead of Facebook friends?
Yeah, if I have like 100,000 followers on Instagram, can I invite them?
OK, sorry about that. No, we don't have any plans to do that. It's just Facebook friends.
Cool. Will you help us capture which of our members made successful invites, sort of through app events or in our backend?
So you can actually do that yourselves by putting tracking information on the end of your deep link URLs.
Can you repeat what happens when someone wants to invite someone multiple times?
Yeah, so they'll have to find them in the other friends section or type them in directly in the type ahead. And when they do that, the notifications will be aggregated together. So you won't be spamming users with a whole ton of invites, or notifications at least. And as far as how it looks in the feed, the most recent invite will be the only one that's shown from a particular user.
Can you talk about how brands might be able to use this type of functionality to invite their fans to download their apps?
I'm not really sure. I mean, like, I think in that case they should probably use the mobile app install ads product because that's more geared towards like targeting fans of a page or something like this. This is just for organic growth, you know, friend-to-friend inviting.
Does the original user who sent the invite have a way of getting notified if the person that they wanted to download the app actually does download it?
No, we don't send any notifications to the original inviter, but apps can do this themselves by tracking the invite flow through a tracking parameter on the deep link URL.
So 2 questions. Are recommendations app-specific or just strength of graph of that user? And the 5%, is that from the touch, or is it from the touching the button, or is it from invite?
So yes, recommendations are app-specific, and the 5% is from when the sender opens the invite flow all the way through to an install. So it's the entire funnel. All right, so it looks like that's all our questions. So thanks a lot, guys.